Back during the 1990s, we were faced with some challenges for some new programs. We moved more towards a community policing focus. Those programs require money. At that time, the money was coming from the general fund budget. In 1998, the citizens of Pasadena voted for a crime control district, and now many of those programs are funded from the crime control district budget.
The Crime Control District is an entity that is authorized by state law that allows a community and incorporated city to basically authorize additional funding for public safety purposes. And that fund is overseen by a board of directors. There's a sunset provision that every 10 years it has to be put before the voters again to be approved to maintain and continue to authorize that funding. Crime Control District makes the city safer in a number of different ways. First of all, it's to help citizens to be more mindful of their surroundings and reduce the likelihood to become victims of crime, but also the many different enforcement activities, whether they be from the commercial vehicles or the overtime of officers being out there on bicycle patrol in some areas that have experienced difficulties relative to burglary motor vehicles and those sorts of things, or the investigation of crime. Those additional hours spent help to identify predators or criminals more quickly and get them off the streets, the fewer victims we will have.
A third of the officers on the force now are eligible to retire. We have 263 officers on the force now, and that even includes the 15 that graduated the last academy. Through attrition and retirement, we lose our population of officers, and the Crime Control District money helps us maintain that population and keep our officer numbers up. So basically, without the funding, there wouldn't be a cadet class. This funding is very important to get qualified cadets, qualified applicants, and future officers on the streets.
The Crime Control District funds are utilized in many ways, not only from educational perspectives relative to offering educational programs.
The Crime Control District funding supports a lot of the programs that we provide to the citizens of Pasadena.
This allows us to reach out into the community in several different ways.
Who can tell me one tobacco fact from the tobacco lesson? One fact about tobacco. Caesar.
Bad for your heart?
Okay. It's bad for your entire body. But
also the DARE program. The DARE program is an effort, I think most people are familiar with that not only teaches kids how to stay away from drugs, but it also talks about teaching good decision-making skills to make sure that they are doing things to keep themselves out of trouble.
As well as the YES program, the Youth Enrichment Services.
It's kept me out of trouble. Like whenever I'm bored, I just come here, I come to the YES Center.
The YES program stands for the Youth Enrichment Services, and what it allows is for one officer to get a little bit more involved in the day-to-day lives of some of the children within Pasadena. And what he is able to do is every day after school, Monday through Thursday, is they come and they have a safe place to do homework, play basketball, to socialize in an environment that is well protected, but it also allows some of these kids an opportunity to maybe get out of a negative environment that they might be in at home or in the community, and it really allows them to develop and grow in other areas.
Officer Eilers, he's been there for me, and he's like my dad. He's kept me out of trouble. He's mentored me through my last 4 years of life in high school.
The Crime Control District it allows us to put a face on the police department. And the Community Services Division and the work that we are able to do there really makes it more than just the men enforcing the law. It's the people that are here assisting the community.
But in addition to that, there are also, from the enforcement perspective, it authorizes additional overtime to put officers in a position where they can take more effective enforcement actions. It makes sure that we can go out on the freeways and make sure that these large rigs, that are commercial vehicles that are traveling through our city, are safe and that our citizens are safe.
The Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Unit, also referred to as the DOT unit, they're out there with the sole purpose of ensuring the safety of our traveling public. Their main goal is the enforcement of the regulations, but also training is an important aspect of that. Each year, our DOT inspectors here at the police department inspect over 2,000 commercial vehicles in the city. Now, that sounds like a large number, but when you consider that on any given workday, there's over 30,000 commercial vehicles traveling just down 225 alone. That's not even considering the other areas of the city. And when you have commercial vehicles, especially ones that are overweight, it's harder on the brakes of the truck, it's harder on the equipment, it's harder on the load securement. It also is devastating to the city's infrastructure. It causes potholes when vehicles choose to run over height, over width lows that are greater than what the law allows. In those ways, it can be devastating to the city's economy. Without this funding, we'd lose a vital part of our enforcement.
We have the most wonderful police department, I think, in the area. We can have programs that we wouldn't be able to have otherwise unless we raised our property taxes, which this keeps us from having to do.
It's a tool to help our men and women in blue. It goes to police cars when they need police cars. It goes to bulletproof vests if they need that. Communication, radios.
It's very important to keep up with technology. Within 2 or 3 years, the technology has changed so much that, you know, your computer doesn't work, this doesn't work. And with the ever-changing world and all the needs to communicate with different agencies, without the current technology, you wouldn't be able to do that. So it's very important that they stay current for their safety and for the safety of others around them.
Hey, Tony, check by 4200 Pasadena Boulevard.
Okay, I'll be on.
In dispatch, we have a recording system that records all our radios and the 911 calls. We also have software they run in there that has the maps that can tell them where people are. It also tracks where the call's coming from, any information that's coming in on the call, and they can also run various things for the officer if necessary. It's just the officer's other point of contact and where the call comes in when somebody calls 911.
Each year, for the last several years, the Crime Control District has allocated approximately $1 million to help replace old and worn-out vehicles. And in that regard, our fleet stays a little fresher, stays a little newer. If we didn't have that funding, the vehicles would certainly require more in maintenance and you know, might not be as serviceable. And also our fire marshals are also allocated some funding to help with training and to support their investigation of arsons and arson crimes.
Arson is a crime against a person, and it also affects the citizens of Pasadena as well due to the insurance ratings. The funding as far as training through the crime control definitely enhances the ability to have better trained investigators in the field. Crime Control District helped us facilitate the purchase of our canine accelerant dog for fire investigations throughout the city. It enhances our ability to work scenes better and in a much more expedient manner. It has actually cut down on our on scene time because the accelerant canine, his senses are 50,000 times greater than a human's. So he's able to basically pinpoint where we need to take samples, and our on-scene time is much shorter. We have met some interesting challenges throughout the years as far as being able to develop the cases and the scientific method of doing such, and we have found that we need to have much better qualified investigators, which this funding helps us with.
In addition to that, there's also the narcotics initiatives with the DEA and the Treasury Department that assist us in allowing our officers to work with them to investigate narcotics in and around the Pasadena area.
It funds 60% of what we call our task force officers. It enables me to keep those positions staffed to where we can have these task force officers working the larger cases, trying to actually, you know, interdict the incoming narcotics traffic so that we have less here in the city to deal with as well. Another way the Crime Control District is assisted is in funding our gang intelligence unit. The gang intelligence unit's primary function is to build a gang database so that we can identify gang members operating in and around the city of Pasadena. That information is available to any patrol officer in car via their computer anytime. And then we also work with our other state and federal partners regarding that database in identifying gang members moving in and around the state of Texas and in the city of Pasadena.
This Crime Control District budget does supplement the police department, and we try to be good stewards of the public dollar, and we're trying to put them to good use. Well, if the funding were to stop, I think the most important issue would the mayor and city council would have some difficult decisions to make because these are certainly some programs that have paid huge dividends, and they would have to make a decision about whether they would continue to find funding to support that or by either raising revenues or diminishing other city services or allowing these services to be diminished or actually cut. It would put them in a very difficult situation.
Well, we wouldn't have well-trained officers, not the equipment, not the radios, not anything that we have in the department would be as good as it is now with the crime control. This started in 1998, and I watched our police department just grow.
At the end of the day, this is about safety. It's about the safety of our citizens and safety of the public in general.
And I think that the continued use of the Crime Control District is not going to only benefit the officers in our city, but many of the citizens for generations to come.